So spring, tomorrow it will probably be -20 and snowing, but anyway, spring is the sign, the proof, the experience that nature has a fresh start, that we can be renewed, reborn, and that power of regeneration and of renewal and rebirth is present within us because we are part of this wonderful nature of nature, this wonderful isness of the world. In the first reading today, in the from the prophet, we hear of the real meaning of fasting, and that's because we're coming up very soon to the season of Lent. And this is a little anticipation of what we'll hear in a moment. Is not this the fast that I choose, to loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke, to share your bread with the hungry, and bring the homeless poor into your house, when you see the naked, to cover them, and not to hide yourself from your own flesh. Not to hide yourself from your own flesh. And what is our flesh? Our flesh is who we are. And in the gospel, we hear the great call of Jesus to stop hiding the light of our nature, the light of our humanity, and hiding behind some false persona or false identity, but to come out into the open and to be light, the light that we are. And it also means, of course, don't run away when you see somebody in need, because they are your flesh as well. And it's that connection with nature, with the cosmos, with the wonders and the miracles of the world, which is the same as our connection with every other human being on the face of the planet. The real meaning of fasting, then, as an ascetical exercise, is to give up, is not just to fast, give up some little treat that we like. That may be a reminder to us to practice some self-discipline or moderation. But the real meaning of fasting in the biblical wisdom is to give up sinful behavior. Sinful behavior. And not just the sinful behavior that we may call sinful, but the sinful behavior that is sinful, because it involves breaking that connection with the planet, with nature, with God, with each other. And so St. Basil said, what's the point of fasting from food if you are devouring your brother or sister with gossip and condemnation? So fast from that. St. John Chrysostom, in the same way, talking about oppression, the oppression of the poor in that passage, says, undo the straps of the yoke, that social oppression is a sinful practice. And it is practiced by those who are in fact eating the poor. So the prophet, as we see here, and the prophet within each of us speaks truth to power, and we must allow that truth to be spoken to us, because the prophet is only too well aware of his or her own weaknesses. That's why they can recognize the weaknesses in others. In 2019, at the Davos International Economic Forum, there was a young Dutch historian who had been invited to speak because he speaks very positively. He's an optimist about the future. And so, maybe not surprisingly, the economists wanted to have this young, active and, vibrant speaker to say what a great world we're creating. But they were rather disappointed. I don't think he's been invited back, because he said, all I've been hearing since I've been here is billionaires speaking about their philanthropy. And there were, I forget the number, 1,700 private jets brought these billionaires to this little town. I've never been there, in Davos. And so they listened to him as he spoke truth to power, and he said, stop speaking about your philanthropy and start paying taxes. That's how we're going to change the world. Not by giving handouts, which will bring you benefits, but to share, to redistribute, to create, to end the oppression of the poor, and so on. So, and it's a very fresh moment when you hear the truth spoken like that. It does revive your hope in the world. And it also gives us a historical perspective, if only on taxes, as he pointed out. He said, all these people are saying that, low taxes is going to be good for the economy. Well, and that high taxes have never worked. He said in the 1950s, under President Eisenhower, billionaires, there weren't so many of them then, of course, but billionaires were paying 90% taxes. Now they'd probably get away with almost nothing. So the truth, letting your light shine, and letting it shine upon all of us, not just condemning the sinful practices of others, but to be aware of our own failings as well. And Rowan Williams, when he commenting on this passage somewhere, I remember, said something like, we trap others in our own power structures. We create the power structures and we oppress them by trapping them in our preconceptions and only allowing them to see or to act within those power structures. And loosing the bonds means allowing people, giving them the freedom to be who they are, to see, for us to see who each of us is, with that incredible otherness that we have, the uniqueness that each one of us has, and yet, and being able to give permission, as it were, to ourselves to see, not easy, easier to control, easier to create impersonal systems of organization and governance, which or tax laws, which are our limited view of the world, and we push others into that. So it's not about just charity or philanthropy, but it's a radical metanoia, a radical change in the way we see, because we're looking in a different direction, and to see others as they truly are. And then we realize that giving to the poor is not an act of generosity, but as St. Ambrose said in the 5th century, I think, it's not about generosity, it's restitution. It's giving back to people what is rightly theirs. And so, as we begin this Eucharist, we celebrate the body and the blood of Christ. We celebrate, with amazement, the fact that we are that body and blood. We are the body of Christ who've come here and who are joined wherever we may be in the world. We are joined as connectedly as we are here in this barn with each other. And so let's be open to that wonder of the Incarnation, which is the heart of our faith, that God immersed himself in the human being and became even a unique human being, just as you are unique and I am unique. So let's be open to that wonder and take a moment to open our hearts to that truth and to the real meaning of power. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "You are the salt of the earth. But if salt becomes tasteless, what can make it salty again? It is good for nothing and can only be thrown out to be trampled underfoot by people. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hilltop cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp to put it under a tub. They put it on the lampstand, where it shines for everyone in the house. In the same way, your light must shine in the sight of everyone, so that seeing your good works, they may give the praise to your Father in heaven." And this is the gospel of the Lord. Every time I read that little parable, I suppose, a little metaphor of salt losing its saltiness, I mean to do a bit of research. Can salt lose its saltiness? So today, with time on my hands, I will now give you the benefit of my 5-minute research. Well, apparently salt doesn't lose its saltiness unless it has a chemical interaction with some other substance, and then it would lose it. But salt is used to preserve, and it was also used, and to flavor, as we know, because we're all eating too much salt, but also it was used as a fertilizer. Did you know that, Thomas? Uh-huh. Yeah, there you are. Not a complete waste of time here then. Yeah. Thomas is our farmer here, and he doesn't use fertilizer. Organic fertilizer. Well, maybe you'll have to look up this. Maybe you can use salt, which I would have thought would have been bad for the earth, but apparently it was used as a fertilizer at the time of Jesus, and then when it had been used for salt, and I suppose it was sifted, I don't know, I didn't go into all that detail, but the salt is then thrown away. It served its purpose. It can't be used for anything else. So it helps maybe to give a little bit more context to this very familiar saying of Jesus. And what can make us become unsalty? Because we become too conformed to the world around us, to its values, to its preconceptions, to its fears, and to its own self-justification. And so we will lose our saltiness, our flavor, the flavor of our humanity, if we interact in the wrong way or too much in worldly, materialistic, self-centered activity and values. And the other metaphor that Jesus uses to describe what humanity is like seems to be a more affirmative one. We are the light of the world. And that light is meant to be seen. And how do we allow our light to be seen? By being translucent, not by hiding in corners and doing dark things in corners or defaming others in corners, or, you know, the kind of world that the Epstein files is revealing, this world of darkness, really, which is covered up with glamour, money, influence, celebrity, all the things that hide the light, actually, even though celebrity wants to be on the news and in the social columns. But actually, the true human light is concealed when we enter into a mentality, not even a behavior, well, behavior and a mentality that shapes that behavior as a way of in fact, of self-denial, of denial of our true self. So to let our light be seen is a duty. It's not an indulgence, a narcissistic thing. And there are many ways that we might want to be seen. We might want to be acclaimed, approved for our generosity, or for telling our own version of the truth to people, or whatever it may be. There are many ways that we could be seen, but for actually our true light, the light within, to be seen, that requires a quite different set of practices, quite different approach, a way of life, in fact. This is not just a way of getting recognition or getting self-satisfaction, self-righteousness. And we can do the right thing for the wrong reason. T.S. Eliot says he asks if Thomas Becket did the right thing, but for the wrong reason. And that is the greatest treason, to do the right thing for the wrong reason. But it is to do the right thing in the right way. And then, whatever the outcome of that may be, whether we are approved invited back, as our Dutch historian friend will not be invited back to Davos, but whether we are acclaimed or whether we are vilified, and he was attacked by his audience, some of his audience, we will, anyway, our own light, we will have that experience of authenticity, not of self-satisfaction. In fact, you may even wonder whether you should have done it, and whether you may not be 100% certain, because we never are about anything. But what he says is, then if people see that light shining in you, and you have allowed it to shine, your essential goodness, your essential truthfulness, your essential virtue or courage, then they will give praise to God, not to you. They will forget what you did as an individual very quickly, but they will be infused with the confidence of seeing another human being showing their light, being authentic, telling the truth. And that's what I think that's what praising God or giving the glory to God means, not to you as an individual, but to the source, your source, everyone's source. So the only way, I think, is to ask this fundamental contemplative question. It's not just a contemplative question, it's the fundamental human question, who am I? Not to run away from it, not to allow somebody else's answer to deceive us, but to do the work of integrity, of silence and stillness and simplicity, to be on that journey of self-inquiry and of self-discovery, which of course involves letting go of all the false selves and all the false assumptions and the false projections of which we can be guilty. So who am I must be also linked, if it is a genuine self-inquiry, not just self-righteousness or self-fixation. It's difficult sometimes to distinguish these. That's why we need other people. But this question, who am I, must be linked to the question, what am I doing? How am I living? And therefore, what should I do? Am I doing the right thing for the right reason? And these questions are not multiple choice, that there's one right answer. They're really questions that take you beyond the dualistic mind of questions and answers, and it takes you into the truth of the matter. And the truth is always non-dual. So the only way to know who I am in the contemplative wisdom is to be known, to allow yourself to be known. And that is what we do in meditation. And it's why meditation is pure action. It's not an escape from the world of activity. It's an escape from the world of images and projections and self-righteous egoism into a deep humility, the humility of God himself. God is not one huge, massive ego as we project, and as religion often projects. The great I am is not a great ego, but is humble. The best word we can describe the nature of God, and that is exemplified in the incarnation, of course, is humble. And that does not make sense to our conventional understanding of God. So the only way to know who I am is to do this work of contemplation in some way or other that transcends our dualistic perception of reality, a true metanoia that takes place in us through time with some amazing individual moments and encounters, but basically as a continuous process throughout our lives, in which the I and the thou merge into unity, just as the we and the them merge into one without losing their uniqueness. I, we, I, you, we, them. The Father and I are one. The Father is greater than I. So our meditation really has a necessary place in any life that is seeking to be authentic in the way we treat other people, the way we speak truth to power and expose falsehood, and the way in which we allow our own light, true light, to shine forth so that we keep the flavor of our humanity.